Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Leading Crypto. Welcome back on this glorious Monday as we walk into, I think this is the last Fed meeting week of the year. Everybody's got a lot of attention on that FOMC meeting coming up on Wednesday. So aside from that, we're just going to take a look at everything as we always do, right? So we're going to take a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, most likely the DXY and the SPX, right? And just kind of, break it down as we always do, technicals, over the news, right? So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. We do this every Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we just jump right into it. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague here, Mr. Magic Internet Money, and we're going to jump right in.
Right on. Just got the chat up, so that will be good. So kind of a messy chart here. I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff. You've got some really interesting areas to work off of. Very simple chart, in my opinion. You had resistance here, and you've got support coming down just beneath you right here. So you really want to see this hanging on to realistically 16,761. That's your old SFP right here. If you wanted to extend it down and be a little more conservative, you absolutely could. You could come all the way down to our caveman pivot, which we probably should have highlighted a little more just because it did catch the overall low to the dollar. But, we're looking at trades here. I did take this long. I'm already out of it. It's just looking for the weekly pivot. And realistically, you're still in a range on Bitcoin and nothing is broken, right? Everybody wants lower prices, including myself, just because if I'm looking for swing longs, I'm more, prone to want to take them from down here in this region. I just think it would be a much better area to be looking for them, and you can see that you're in an uptrend here. And I think that what's going to happen is everyone probably drew this as like some form of a rising wedge, and they all used like this whole thing. They all went this route, I think, and so this is what retail's looking at, right? Touch, and then we've broken down. So now we're looking for a back test, and you're going to see people redraw it today. I guarantee you'll see people redraw it, and they're going to draw it like this. So that's the beauty of trend lines, guys. They carry almost no weight, but that's what people are looking at. So has price done anything? No, it's effectively still in a range, and that's the best way to trade this. That's why we don't really pattern trade per se, and we don't trade off trend lines, is because the range is going to give you the levels you need to be aware of. Now, I've got quite a few boxes on here, and the reason is this is just areas of importance. These are inflection points in the market, and the box above us here, it's basically predicated on the previous week and the current monthly, right? So we're tracking things based on time, not just market structure, because it gives us a little less variables to work with. The timing aspect of it is constant, and it's already set, so we don't have to worry about changing it or which one we should be using, because time's going to decide that for us. The market will. So this is last week. You can see that we've come in, we could backfill the NPOC up here. And realistically, if we want to get any kind of continuation up to these Q2 low, right, up here all the way up to 18K, which is going to be that monthly target, right? That's just a statistical target. It's not meant to be traded as support or resistance. Oftentimes you do get a little bit of a bounce or a pop from it, though, if you're coming up to it. But this would be the area you're looking for. And you get that if you're above about 17,150 to 17,174. I think that gets it. I think that's the area you got to flip. You flip that, I think you could get that nice push to 17.5 up to as high as 18K. And then we've talked about those other targets that do come in up here. These, broader targets that come in way up here, I guess. Yeah, there we go. All the way up at like the old TPO range. Point of control and the volume point of control if you're using TradingView, right around 19,150 up to, and to me, I extend that to like 19.6, obviously. Still on the table as long as Bitcoin's holding structure, but I do think that the moment we start losing, I'm going to be conservative and say 16,761.50. You start breaking down from there, I would imagine we're going to rotate the entire merged range in full. And then from there, we get to play the game of, is this going to bounce and be support, or do we come down here and make a new low? That's realistically all you're doing on Bitcoin right now. And I know where I put that merged range. I moved it last night right before the live, and it's got me twice now looking for it. There we go. So again, start breaking down from this box. Obviously the POC of the range is here, but if you're not in the group or you haven't been following me over the years, you'll know that you don't trade the point of control. You don't diddle in the middle of a range. It's not meant to be support or resistance. At times it can be, depending on the confluences that are there. In this case, I'm not looking to trade this zone in terms of like a swing trade. I would be looking for lower at that point because you want to take trades from the high of the range or the low of the range. Those are going to give you the best invalidation and the best risk. So, I always play on my terms. If it bounced from here and then mooned and I missed it, I would not care. I'd just wait for one of my targets and, go from there. So that's all I will say about that. Bitcoin, very, very simple. Got to get it back above 17,150 to 17,174, that little $24 window. Otherwise, this is just range bound. And if you start losing these levels, very clear and obvious targets, levels of interest to the downside, right? SPX, nothing has changed, right? We've come to this harmonic. We've bounced all the way back to resistance. It was predetermined resistance all the way from September. So done our job there. And what did we say when we came back down to this area? 39.2341 has got to be the level on the chart that you're hanging on to. We'll get rid of the fun. And you can see that you're just really riding this level out. So you do need to see price continue to hold this level. And if you do, we can start talking about getting a push back up to maybe 4,028. And that to me is where things start to look like it's going to put not only pressure onto a new high, but maybe even come up as high as like the Q3 NPOC quarter one low. And then, if that range gets flipped, you're really going to be looking, in my opinion, I guess this little box right here, you flip this box and, I've obviously always got another box. I think you would be coming up as high as like 43,020 up to 4412, which is a big zone. But again, trading is not meant to be perfect. You're just meant to make good decisions in the moment, and you need to identify where the market inflection points are going to be to do that. So that's what we're doing here, is we're lining that out. Now, to the flip side of that, you start breaking down from this, key level here, then yeah, you're probably heading down to this box and maybe even lower. You've got a gap fill down here that makes sense, to come down here, and all the gap boys and girls are going to be shouting for it, but they don't always get what they want right away. So, bear that in mind. Yeah, and I think I was looking at this last night, as you've got a very nice and clear uptrend. You'd be breaking the uptrend if you break down below this level. So it's one of those things where at that point you'd start looking for a new trend, and that would make sense, right? So we love it when things make sense. It makes it very, very easy. I think, again, the wild card is the DXY. I think DXY is, not really done anything. It's trying to put in a local bottom here, but it's just not doing anything. No signs of strength. Cannot reclaim 105.34. I could probably do a little additional work on this and just start looking and saying, okay, where's the new levels to reclaim? Obvious and clear support is right around 104.50. Don't want to be losing that. And you lose 104.50. And I think that, barring a swing fail of these lows, which you already swing fail these effectively, I would be looking down to these lows, but realistically, I'm looking all the way back down to a range retest. And we talked about this because you did have a massive harmonic that played out over the course of multi-years. So like multiple years. When did this start? This is from 2001. So this is a 20-year harmonic. I inadvertently called the top on the DXY. Very, very cool. So that would be what I'd be looking for, is a test back into this multi-year range here and go from there. The DXY may have topped, and a lot of that has to do with maybe some of the policies going into place across the world with oil. I know that China and Saudi Arabia are kind of talking business. Russia's not really on board. So, that would be a big blow to the dollar to start losing that dominance or superiority. And I don't really have anything else. Bitcoin is very, very simple today, very easy, still range bound, kind of a messy chart, and I apologize for that in advance. But, we do the best we can for you guys. So if there are any questions, just fire them away. And good morning to everyone in the chat. I'll turn it over to Maxwell.
Sweet. Yeah, so I'm just going to go over pretty much. Yeah, I'll touch on some of the things that I went over last night in the member stream, and then I'll, go over how what the confirmation that we said in the stream, played out very nicely. So, just a quick recap over the weekend price action. Very dull, but towards the end of the Sunday, you could see here that we had a huge spike in shorts, and yet we did nothing. Similar to what occurred. Where were we? Back down here where you had a huge spike in longs. So this is the bit I'm looking at here. We had a huge spike in longs. Price action didn't do anything. And we said, okay, you're probably going to take the lows. And zoom back to the big spike. Here we are. Opposite is relevant here. Huge spike in open interest, heavy negative delta. That's just a ton of shorts piling in and yet failing to really do anything with the market there. So you can kind of expect price to squeeze them out. And where'd you go? You go and take the highs for the day. Easy swing failure pattern trade. Come up huge. This is not what you want to see on a breakout. Buys just absolutely evaporate from the market. There's no buyers in this candle. It's purely shorts piling in. And in the next candle here, you can see clear positions changing hands. Someone's building a big short in this candle. And then you can see the delta, do the delta switch up, which is a signal that, okay, something's occurring. Strength, 241K, 340K, 857K. Then you do have like a couple oddballs in here, but then you get the strength as you break down below the low on huge selling imbalances for your entry trigger. And that was the way that you could have got into a trade for the move down. Now, where did we come to? I think Magic mentioned it in it, but I will just go over it. You came down to the golden pocket, pulled from the left to the high. We came down here, and in the move, we were saying this actually occurred just while we were on stream. And I said, when you come down to these levels, the way that you use order flow is you wait to see a reaction. And during the stream, we didn't really get the reaction that one would desire. Initially you did have some buyers. Okay, if you're going to get it really early, that's okay. But it kind of faded off. You kind of just got the volume just dropped off a cliff. And I said that the level to really reclaim is this here where you've come down, made a low, bounced from it twice. This is the level that you want to get above as your confirmation if you're unsure of this trade, because then it's quite easy. You can just put your stop loss below the low. And you came above it. I'll admit I didn't get in it initially, but I did get it on the second side when you actually saw some strength come into the market. So if you look at the delta differences here, where you've got the positive delta as you broke back above the level, it wasn't really anything too significant until this candle occurred, and I wasn't there at the time. Now, if you zoom over here, you can see we were getting bigger spikes in the open interest. You were getting continuous open interest increases on the positive delta. And you can see in the build-up as well, coming into it, you had a lot more positive delta than what you did back here. So it's kind of a signal, okay, there's buying taking place. And if not buying, it's shorts closing, which is always a positive thing sometimes when you want to aim for the upside. Then you got the move up. And we did take the London high just a touch ago, but it came back down. It just blasted straight through it, then came back down a bit later, but it didn't really do anything. So, we're still in a position here where, I'm going to just quickly go over the resistances that Magic spoke about. We've got so much above us here that I don't really see a reason why we don't go and tap that, to be honest with you. Looking at it, open interest hasn't been great, has to be said. So it will, if we do go and tap them levels, will be a quick move down if we were to reject. But, there's not really anything to say. The fact that you've got open interest has been somewhat okay on the rise in areas, I'll admit, in areas. Whereas, you've had plenty of spots where you've been rising on just decreasing open interest. So it doesn't look overly that strong, this little move up. I think it is just coming into the resistances that we've had. This high here is simply coming in and bouncing from this low here. I think you're just coming into the resistances, and that's where I would really argue the next trade is. I've literally got nothing else to mention because it's not really doing too much. There's not really that much volume. There's not really that much volatility. Last week was the lowest volume week since I think it was 2019. So yeah, it's a slow day in the office when this type of volume is occurring. But you do get the trade, you do get the move up. Looking to come into this resistance now. And as Magic said, if you can claim it, well then you can look to the targets to the upside, which he mentioned. But I do feel like this is a very, very big resistance here that I'll certainly be looking to take a short. So yeah, pretty quick and easy. I've really not got too much to say as it's not really doing too much. But I will just mention one thing as well. I always like looking at the weekend ranges. This is the low of the weekend. This is the high of the weekend. Kind of like we trade the Monday range. I quite like trading the weekend range on a Monday. So if we do start to break back above here, Well, you can look for the weekend point of control, and then I would be looking for a swing failure pattern. But of course, there's a lot of resistance here, so definitely be cautious if you're longing above here. The long was down, was down here, so be aware of that. And hopefully tomorrow will be more exciting for us. We are doing live trading as well for the CPI session, for the release. So we've got a live trading session on that. So if you're in the group, be sure to tune in. But yeah, CVO. Sorry that was a bit quick, but is what it is.
Oh man, that's perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Tomorrow CPI, and then we got FOMC, so it'll be nice. Have some volatility news makers, I guess, if that's what we're gonna call it. But yeah, it's been crazy to see Ethereum. I feel like it's been actually a little bit better than Bitcoin in the sense. Granted, we had almost the same movements. Granted, Bitcoin or Ethereum moves a little bit more as far as percentage goes, right? So just something to kind of be aware. But I'm going to kind of walk through what we were kind of talking about last week, kind of going to Saturday a little bit, and then where we are now. So similar to Bitcoin at the moment, we're actually in pretty much the same position. We covered this last night in the member stream as well, if you're looking at previous week, and golden pocket. Pretty much, as soon as the new week opened last night, 7 p.m., or I think it was 7 p.m., we pretty much took the fall right down almost straight to the golden pocket here that we've had in place since the last rally, right? So from 1217 up to your high at about 1297, almost 1300. Golden pocket came in right here at about 1247 at 1245. And then at this point now, we have that as also our previous week value area low. So if we think back to last week, where did we fall to then, right? So we had this move right here. This was when Bitcoin broke out of that triangle. Everybody was looking for it. This was essentially our weekly open at the time. And then this was then, I know it's marked for new levels now, but this was at the time our previous week value area low, right? So very important areas to kind of notate, keep on your chart. And then same thing, just, when you're diddling in the middle, it's going to be better to look for your positions at the lows or the highs, right? That's and then everything in between is really just targets along the way. So from here, right? So going back, this is where I entered one of the trades here, 1228, ran it up to the weekly open, which once again at the time was about right here, about 1277. So we got a little bit, a little higher than that a couple times here. I decided to actually close out the remainder of that trade right here on this run back up. This was on Saturday in the group here, right? We were looking at it, and let's see. Oh, you can't see my screen, but all right. Either way, in the group there, it was on Saturday morning. We were entering the previous day range. We had a naked point of control, basically right here at the high. And things of that nature. And plus, we were into the weekend, and it just had been too long. So I just decided to close it all out, which I'm glad I did, because at the end of the day, it just would have came back down and stopped out the rest of my position anyways. So definitely went with the risk management on that one and closed it out here. From here, went into Sunday, not too much really to go on about. And then we did the same thing as, with Ethereum as we did with Bitcoin and a couple other assets as well. Dogecoin had a really big move as well at the same time. But all we did was we came up, took the previous day high, came down, took the previous day lows. So knocked anybody out that was trying to get any of this, loading up on positions over the weekend. And then week opens right down to the previous week value area low, golden pocket, and so on. So here we are, right? So what would you want to look for in the short term? So for me, we were actually living below this region last night. So first thing to look for was a reclaim of the previous week val, which we have effectively done that. Next would be your VWAP, which essentially you are sitting on that, give or take, right at this moment. And then you can see how the previous day low has come in as some pretty decent resistance at the time of this recording here. Thing to note is that we do have this untapped daily just below us. So I guess, with something like this, you got a pretty nice invalidation right below your lows. The lows at this point are a little far away if you're looking to enter right this second on anything, right? I mean, that's a percent. So, if you're not going too crazy, if you want to go with some risk, but at this point, I'm probably looking to re-enter yesterday's low, right? Get the reclaim up here, about 1255 from there. Unlike Bitcoin, we do have the weekly level here that is untapped at the moment. We've got an untapped daily up here as well. Previous day point of control, like I said, just these are targets, not necessarily areas you want to enter at. And then, look to take it up higher from there. So your previous day high, weekly high and things of that nature. So yeah, in the short term, I mean, this could really, prove to be a decent little run here. Just a short move. I mean, these are like, once again, these are low time frame, like intraday trades, like a 1% move here. Is that worth the risk? 1% to the upside to have your stop loss 1% below. I mean, that's definitely up to you. But essentially, more than anything, looking down for, this untapped daily too would be an ideal area to be paying attention for if you get there. So a little tough at the moment, like I said. So, I mean, unless you really got like, the back test right here at the previous week, aka bought the golden pocket and you got a nice stop loss just below, I'd probably be waiting for something like 1255 to get reclaimed, or look for the loss of this level and start looking down towards 1230 and even possibly back down to 1217 once again. That would be the short-term stuff, right? So, and then we start zooming out, right? Still have, an overall golden pocket just below us, an untapped daily as well. So this, starts coming into realization. They start losing the previous week low. So 1216 is lost. Looking down to this region. And, this has been a big area we've been, looking for quite some time. Will we get it right now is the question, right? So, and that just really starts to materialize once again. Start losing these regions, set alerts for, I set alerts for everything. So as soon as you start losing something or starting to gain something, you can kind of pay attention, look where Bitcoin is, things of that nature as well. But yeah, look down at this region, and then you got an untapped daily below that as well. And then the big boy that I've been paying keen attention to, see if and when we get it at 1038. So those are your levels to the downside. As far as anything to the upside, you would go, if we just get a decent little move from here, because realistically, I mean, you got a low, high, higher low, higher high, effectively. You got your higher low at the moment, but you could be putting in some lower highs. So something to kind of notate at the moment. Still possible to kind of push up and tag this monthly that we're looking at up here. That would probably coincide with Bitcoin running it up quite a bit as well, possibly up towards like 17.6, 18K. And then just kind of pay attention to see how things go at that point. Also, do note that, you got this monthly level basically comes in right at this high. So for anybody, once again, you talk about the ideas of, taking the highs and running it back. This would be the ideal level to, look for that SFP, however you want to look at it, right? So big area up here, about 1350. And then obviously if that just gets, cleared right there, you got the overall golden pocket. But short term, I really feel like we're probably going to, whipsaw through this region for a little bit more, especially with the news events coming tomorrow and Wednesday. Seeing some pretty quick moves, something like even things like this, right? Where you come up, take all the highs, come down, tag your golden pocket, you come down to some of these untapped dailies. It's going to be viewed as market manipulation or whatever everybody's going to, call for it. But it's just be prepared for these areas, right? So, and if you're not in a position right at this moment, these are the ones to mark out and pay attention when we get there. So. Dogecoin too. Just want to kind of point. I'm not going to go too far into this one, but once again, I didn't take the short right here, and I wish I did. I had a long that it closed out around this region. I don't even think I actually closed it at the monthly because once again, this was over a weekend. I think I closed out on Saturday, like just before we actually ran it too. But yeah, just a perfect pullback all the way down to the golden pocket, which was from your low to high right here. So a really big move right here, right? So, I talk on Doge quite a bit because Doge moves a lot. 23%, if you could imagine Bitcoin dropping 23%, it would be, world headlines. Doge, goes under the radar. A lot of the other altcoins as well. I mean, there's a lot of other opportunities. Don't get me wrong. It's not just Doge. It's just this one has really, it respects the levels really well. So yeah, it did come down, tag that level, just like everything else did pretty much last night when we came into the golden pocket for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I did alert the group of that last night also. But yeah, that's about all I got to. We're just kind of geared up, ready, prepared for the rest of this week. Gonna see how some of the, the news, if it's going to affect anything, which I'm sure it will in the sense of timing more than anything, right? Like we get a lot of times we'll come through, we'll get these weeks and, we've had such low volume going into it. At some point, obviously the price action is going to make a move. And generally they're timed around these events. So, all right. Matt, you got anything else to add? I think that's about all I got. We can finish it up.
No, I don't really feel good, so I'm just kind of like zoned out.
No worries, man. I understand. Awesome. Well, great. We'll see you all again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. If you're all interested in joining the Leading Crypto Discord server, the information for that is below. We are offering a 1 month half off special. The information on that is in the Discord under our announcements tab. And if you have any questions about that when you get in there, just feel free to DM or tag us in the general chat. Aside from that, yeah, let's have a great week, everybody. We'll see you all in the next video. Till then, cheers.